Hey folks, Nick here from another BookTube channel, and we're keeping the good GarbAugust times rolling with another paperback from hell, Sins of the Flesh by Don and Jay Davis. They say never judge a book by its cover, which is a cliche that does have merit, but there's no denying that a good cover can get a potential reader to be interested. And Sins of the Flesh has a banging cover that immediately made me buy it. So, it looks pretty plain, just a head on like that. But we can see that it's obviously a step back cover. It's got a little window cut out in it. You can see the claw reaching out. So when we open it up, whoopah, 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 we got a big monster that's coming out at us. So I saw this on the shelf of a used bookstore. I opened it up. I got that step back cover, and I said, "Oh yeah, I'm buying this." I didn't even read the blurb on the back. I was like, just on the merit of that cover, I'm taking this home with me. So a cover is just a cover. Is the book any good? Let's get into it. So I like the plot synopsis on the back of the book better than anything I was going to be able to write, so I'm just going to read it out to you. An innocent mound of grass-covered earth, a weathered wooden door, a root cellar, shelter from violent storms, storage for the farm's produce. On Walter Sykes's farm, the root cellar hides a dark and dangerous secret. A monster slumbers there, imprisoned by powerful magics. A monster that was once Walter Sykes's eldest son. Transformed by a madman's curse, Jesse Sykes is a killing machine. 20 years ago, he cut a bloody swath through the small town of Gideon, until his mother struck him down with her own occult powers. Now Eleanor Sykes is dying. The bonds that hold the monster are weakening. Soon Jesse will be free. No one in Gideon will be safe. I enjoyed this book quite a bit, and it actually did do a pretty good job of scaring me a little, though not in the way that you would think. I'm not scared of monsters, but I am scared of my own body suddenly failing, like without warning. And in the opening chapters of this book, there is a character who has a stroke. And the way that the Davis brothers write about the impending stroke really messed with my head. Because, they introduce the character, and then they introduce the blood clot in their body. And then every time the character does something, the blood clot also does something. And it just really freaked me out, and it kind of gave me a little bit of a restless night. This is ultimately a monster story, though, and it is chock full of maimings, mutilations, and murder. This book absolutely lives up to the promise on the back, which is that nobody in Gideon is safe, and that includes main characters, women, children, and the elderly. Once the action really gets going, we fall into a rhythm of character gets introduced, we learn enough about that character to flesh them out a little bit, and then they encounter the monster, and usually, but not always, end up dead. That rhythm and that storytelling structure contributes to the very fast pace at which you can read Sins of the Flesh. Despite being 400 pages, I think it's very reasonable to say you can finish this comfortably in a single weekend. There's just enough backstory and just enough characterization to give you context, but the emphasis here is mostly on the monster attacks. That being said, I do think that there was a shallowness to the town of Gideon that didn't bring it to life in the same way that someone like Stephen King could. It's probably not fair to compare the Davis brothers to one of the greatest horror writers of all time, but if you're going to write a book about a monster terrorizing a small town with a big cast, I do think the comparison is kind of inevitable. However, the alternative is them spending an extra 100 pages earlier on or so building out the town and the interpersonal relationships within it, and I just don't know if that's also what I really would have wanted from these writers. So I think it's fine as it is. It just doesn't scratch that small town itch. Sins of the Flesh does push really close to getting repetitive in that rhythm that I talked about. And the Davis brothers, I think, smartly sensed that and ended the book after a reasonable amount of time and provide a mostly satisfactory conclusion. There is a subplot involving an ageless evangelical preacher that does just kind of fizzle out, and I would have liked to get some closure on that. But whatever, it's just a pretty quick and fun monster book. My arbitrary and subjective grade for Sins of the Flesh by Don and Jay Davis is 7 out of 10. Do with that what you will. Have you read this book? Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. If you're participating in GarbAugust, let me know what paperbacks from hell you chose for this theme week. Thank you very much for spending some time with me today, but now it's time to get back to reading.